Yo, when I spit bars in a rave, man, I go hard like Santan.
Hello and welcome to another TouchlineGunners podcast. It's your boy Dankoogs on hosting duty today, and I'm joined by my good friends, man, SV Carbaholic himself.
Yeah, forget all the niceties, man. I'm just not in a good mood, bro. But I've been crashing out all afternoon. It's my son's birthday, bro. I was smiling at the start of the day. My mood has changed dramatically since like 2 p.m, bro. I've just been fuming since then, bro. I'm in severe pain. You know when your parents used to smack you when you were younger, bro, and then like you start crying, bro, but they'll tell you to fix your face, bro. You're just, bro. That's how I've been looking all afternoon, bro. I'm kettled, bro. Absolutely kettled. Forget the niceties.
It's political peak, man. And Sushinio, German DZ, how you doing, man?
Boy, man. Gods! What is going on right here, man? What is going on, man, here?
My goodness.
50 million opening bid package.
Hey, look, we'll get into that, man. We'll get into that. But listen, I'm here with my Magnum tonic wine. I don't know if you can see that because I need some alcohol, man. I had meetings all afternoon. I could not tell. I made no notes. I could not tell you what happened at any of those meetings. If I have to-dos, boy, they're going to have to chase me, because everything's going in one ear and out the other. My head has been in the solar system, floating somewhere between Pluto, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. I don't know, but it's in them far-reaching planets, because I've just been kaboomed, man. I've been tiger uppercutted with some of these developments, this afternoon. Bro, you see, there's that video circulating today of the guy getting punched up and the guy punched him going bang, bang, bang with every lick. That's what's been happening to me, man. Arteta and Berta running this window, Arsenal fans, you see Chris Eubank, lick him up, lick him. That's what they've been doing to us fans, man, because, boy, you know what, guys, before we get into it, make sure you lock into the Patreon. The fans have been showing, listeners have been showing, quite a bit of support to us so far on that. We've been spending some time to do the analysis on a lot of these Arsenal-linked players over the course, so we know the ins and outs, right? So a lot of us are disappointed with this Madueke bid, etc., for a multitude of reasons, but one of them being the tapes that we watched, right? So if you don't really know that much about the player, don't really understand the furor around the signing, make sure you look into that Patreon from as little as £3 a month. We're putting out content twice a week, in addition to all of these pods ad-free as well. So if you're getting bumper-clarted by the ads on Apple Podcasts, by the ads on Spotify, and you don't really like them, you can lock into the Patreon. You get ads, or you get all the episodes ad-free as well. So, guys, the topic of discussion is obviously Noni Madueke, right? So, German Dan, he's coming with a little bit of an insight into some of the money that's been bandied around, but it looks like Arsenal have made an opening offer of 50 million.
Jesus! God damn!
Right? We don't know what the structure of that is. Could be 35 plus 15, could be 45 plus 5, could be 40 plus 10. But we know the total package being offered is 50 million. I do think Fabrizio has a way of, jazzing up some of the reporting to favour Chelsea at the moment. I like to think it's probably in the 35-ish plus 15 range, because to me, that just seems like a superbly insane and stupid opening bid. I'm sorry, for what has been reported. So, German, you're off mute, and you were going to get into this a little bit earlier. So let's hear your thoughts around this potential signing, what you think it might mean, how you feel about the player, etc.
I don't like it. Not a fan of the player's quality, not a fan of the fit, not a fan of the suitability, not a fan of the drip, not a fan of the left, right foot, not a fan of the cross, not a fan of the haircut, not a fan of the headband. Like I'm just not a fan. I'm not a fan at all. At all. I don't care if people think he has qualities. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit if he has qualities. I don't give a damn. Anthony Nokaye got qualities as well, and he's shit. So I don't. At this moment in time, I don't get the caveat on an attacking signing having qualities. It's not about that. It's about someone that needs to come in and be a value add, a significant value add. And I just don't see that with Noni. I don't see it. Not for the way Arsenal play. I think the only thing I can see in the thinking is you're buying a left-footed player that can play on the right and definitely is a winger as well, cover Saka, and take some of the burden off Saka, which we all want. And then can play on the left because whoever we have playing left back will likely be very narrow. And the players that we have out there are also going to be playing narrow and won't be going wide as much. So you need someone that's out there wide, can whip crosses in off the first step. I get that thinking, but does that thinking land me at Noni Madueke? I have to question the whole process of identifying who we're going for here. We can go into the financials a bit later because I think the financials is a big reason why we're making this move. Big reason why we're making this move. People might look at it and think this is a lot of money, but when you look at all the financials, it probably is cheaper still that we can do on the wing from the targets that we've been linked with. It's probably the cheapest still. So the club are being cheap, and the only justification for being cheap is if we don't get the big guns. But there's no big guns out there. We get Gyökeres. Free run at the guy. The guy is on his knees for us, saying about, I've reduced my salary. Meanwhile, we're bickering over 5 million, but giving 50 million to the club in the west side of London. So I just don't get that approach. If you're going for the cheapest deal, where is the significant outlay? I don't see us making a significant outlay. People talking about the Eze being 65. That's not significant to me, man. That's about his market value. That's probably below his market value, to be honest. And we're still trying to get a cheaper deal. Why are we penny pitching, man? I can't be going to Harrods and thinking, hopefully this shit is in the sale. No, motherfucker, it's not in the sale. It's Harrods. This shit is retail price only, man. Trying to get them in the sale, man. Go on fucking ASOS, bro. Papa in the cell. Noga in the cell. You ain't buying a winger in the cell, bro. What the hell is going on?
I swear you were asking for discount codes the other week, but let me not talk too much.
I don't need discount codes. I'm full price, man. Fuck that shit. Price, man.
Listen. So let's. I've been trying to rationalize this for hours. Yeah, I'm not even joking. Yeah, I've literally
you ain't rationalizing shit, bro. I saw you.
Bro, listen. Yeah, listen. What I do on the T? What I do on the T? What? Listen. What I do on the TL normally, is hyperbolic. Yeah, it's obviously exaggerating for the followers, this and the other. But let me tell you this, if anything, my tweets today underplayed my true feelings. Like my true feelings are over and above anything you saw on the TL, anything you saw on WhatsApp. I wanted. So you see that video that I got of the Asian guy screaming into the TikTok. He just like listen, I wanted to turn Super Saiyan right today. I wanted to scream at my desk. Goku when Krillin died. That's what I wanted to do. After Spirit Bombing Frieza, I was ready to scream because to me, there's just too many things wrong with this Madueke deal, especially at the price points that are being discussed. So, I look at this to say, boom, the way we should address this window for me has always been about, right, can we equip the team with certain tools that we didn't have necessarily in in the season just gone, right? We play in these mid blocks. Do we have enough, right? And I think from what the manager's been saying, he's been talking about, look, increasing the quality that we have on the pitch. I felt that, you know, even his last press conference, they asked him about Rodrigo. They said, I'm not going to talk about names, but we need to be talking about buying the best players in the world. We need to be in that conversation. We want to be, you know, the premier choice for some of these top players, etc. So when I'm coming to this window and I'm seeing, right, we're going to get 5 million or going to pay 5 million for Kepa. Don't like that sign because I don't rate the keeper, this, that, and the other. But fine, you know, you can rationalize that one. Look, there's no point spending big money like they wanted to, 30 million euro, whatever it was, on a backup keeper or a keeper to compete with David Raya when you've got David Raya, who is, you know, one of the best keepers in the league, back-to-back Golden Gloves, this, that, and the other. They're talking about, oh, we wanted to keep Jorginho, sign Zubimendi, right? That allows us to not have to invest in the number 6 position. Jorginho insisted on moving to Brazil. So then they're talking about renewing and keeping Partey. There's a number of reasons why I was against that. But again, that was on the cost-cutting hype, you know, that people were using that to rationalize that move. So then they pivot, you go get Christian Norgard, yeah, and you say Christian Norgard is the cheap alternative, right? We're getting him for less than £10 million. That allows us to, you know, not spend money on a, you know, less priority position. Christian Mosquera, market opportunity, you know, getting this guy for under 20 million euro fulfills a need in the back line, right centre back cover. So you're telling me, look, you know, wheeling dealing, Andrea Berta, you're coming in mob boss, you know, telling these men, I'm going to buy you chicken change, this, that, and the other. I'm not going to overspend on these positions. That allows us to then fill some of the more priority positions with higher quality, right? Bringing us tools and needs of the team as an attacking unit. So then if you're turning around and telling me, right, the first choice striker target is Benjamin Sesko, he's too expensive, so we're going to go get Victor Gyökeres. Cool. That's actually, now you've got this limit on how much you want to spend on a striker. Calm. I'm perfectly happy with the Victor Gyökeres signing. You're telling me Eze is available on favoured payment terms, and that is if we're still going to move for him. You know, that's assuming we're still going to move him, because that's not confirmed either. You get what I'm saying? So now I'm saying, where's the other priority positions in this team? Yeah, that is the left winger. And now you're telling me that Noni Madueke at £50 million, yeah, word to Chris Tucker, yeah, with the fake money, £50 million, that is fugazi, yeah, is the best you can do in attacking left wing. I'm disgusted, frankly. I'm absolutely disgusted. I'm sorry, it's just not good enough. Like, there's no way you can rationalize this to me. And it's like, I'm looking at this, and it's looking at the tapes, and this is a guy who I personally think does have attributes, right? He does have attributes, but does he have the attributes that the team is lacking? Okay, people say he's very good 1v1, he's very fast, this and the other, which he is. But then I look at it, is this guy creative from the flanks? No, he's not. He's one of the worst creative wingers in the league, actually. Creates less per game than Martinelli, who people are saying need to upgrade. He takes a lot of shots. Okay, but is he converting these shots? No, this guy scored 2 goals in the Premier League in 2025. Since game week 2, he scored 4 goals in the Premier League. So are we fundamentally increasing the threat on paper? Yes, maybe, because the guy can dribble. But in terms of the end product, you're now putting more pressure on the other attackers, because this guy is not really pulling his weight. Number 1, to create. Number 2, to score himself. So what are we doing here? Oh, the manager's going to improve him, this, that, and the other, in a position that this guy has played, what, maybe less than 10 times in the Premier League. So at a crucial stage here, where we are on, you know, basically the precipice of maybe getting it over the line, why are we taking such a risk, such an investment on a player like this, to me, it just sounds like, pet project again, similar to previous signings, whether you're for or against. And I'm not sure that is the direction that we need to be moving in, personally. So, Khalil, you're off mute. I'll let you chime in on this.
Yeah, obviously I joined late, so I'm probably going to be repeating some of the head loss that's preceded me. But what I was thinking was, at the end of January, when we did zero business, right, we were still in the midst of a title race. We were in the knockout stage of the Champions League. The club, the board, the entity that is Arsenal Football Club decided that we weren't going to invest in a striker, despite the fact that we were going through, or decided not to invest in any one whatsoever, despite the fact that we were going through an unprecedented injury crisis. And we still had many things to play for. Those things ended up becoming a Champions League semi-final, obviously a Carabao Cup semi-final. We were close to achieving tangible success last season. We were told that the reason we didn't go the extra mile is because in the summer, that is when we are going to be able to achieve our targets that are going to take us over the top. So you remember that, you remember the frustration, the anguish, we were all sort of perplexed that the club really did nothing. And in the way you begin to rationalize that is when we get to the summer, that is when Arsenal are finally going to do what they've been saying they're going to do for multiple seasons now, which is invest heavily in our forward line for top quality. How many times have we heard the manager complain about the margins? We need to fall on the right side. We need to take better advantage of turnovers. We need to be able to take our chances, etc., etc. We've heard this spiel over and over and over. So when you finally get to the summer and you see the Ornstein bomber that we're spending allegedly 50 million on Noni Madueke, you have to ask yourself, is this really what we were waiting for? Is this really the summation of all the squad building, all the rationalizations about prior decision making? This is what it comes to, especially when, as you've mentioned, Eze is allegedly available. Rodrigo is allegedly available. And again, if the reporting is to be believed, if we do go down this Madueke route, then it's effectively ruling us out of a talent who we all believe, or talents, plural, who we all believe are the type of talents we need to take us over the top. So you really have to start questioning, what is the rationale behind these decisions being made? German mentioned the club being cheap. I can see an angle in that. Again, it's difficult to kind of know for sure until the window ends, but you can see the idea of where the club are tempted to cheap out. But at the same time, you're aggressively spending on mid is what I've described it as. It's not that this is a market opportunity that you're getting below market. You are literally paying top dollar for a guy who has not demonstrated top dollar performance from a rival club, once again, who are known to be needing to make sales in order to comply with whatever financial rules that they need to comply with. So it's like every time you think about it from a new context, it makes less and less sense. And you're just scratching your head thinking, is this truly what the manager wants? Because again, then we get onto the manager. If this is truly what the manager wants, and we've debated numerous times about his alleged influence on recruitment, how much influence he does have, how much he doesn't have, the back and forth about Edu and the talent identification, and Alberta's coming in. Like at some point, you really have to just turn around and say, you know what, this is what the manager wants. Like there's only so much you can put to external, or other reasonings. Like, yes, we would all love the club to spend more, but when you do spend, how are you spending it? And if you're spending it on Noni Madueke, I've got serious questions to answer, because I don't believe it to be, at this point in time, if we believe that Eze and Rodrigo are then out of reach of the consequence, this is not a good use to spend. You've mentioned that he's coming to play on the left wing potentially. Again, I don't see how that is a level raiser for us. I look at Martinelli, I look at Madueke. You can argue Madueke is better. Is he better to the point of this level of investment? I don't think so. You want to say he's a backup for Saka? This is a lot of spending for a backup who you're then going to argue is not going to play a lot of minutes. So again, it goes back to the question of cost allocation. So again, anytime you look at a different angle, you cannot find a way in which, to me, the transfer makes sense. So I am hoping, I am praying, I am asking whoever's listening out there, Arsenal Football Club, bring me the guys I need come September, because I do not want to see or hear another interview post-match talking about, oh, the margins, which were unfavorable to us. We needed to take advantage of the 1.1 XG we created, or we weren't able. Because you now have the opportunity to rectify this. You have done squad building. You made squad building choices to build from your back forward. Fine, we've debated that numerous times. But now this is the time when you need to pick the top quality. Why do you do all that work to get yourself back into the Champions League, to get yourself access to the biggest pool of talent, to be going dumpster diving again and again and again? It does not make sense to me. So I wish we can fast forward to September 1st, because I am crashing out, but I'm aware that circumstances can change, and I am conscious of that when I'm thinking through these things. But again, it seems like we're heading down an old route, a familiar route, where we're making an aggressive investment in a guy that's not worth that level of investment. The timeline for us to win is shorter than ever, right? Even if you bring in Gyökeres, we can all think that we definitely need top quality elsewhere, and I would not class Madueke at this point in his time development, whatever you want to call it, as top quality. And the fact that we're paying so much to do it to a rival, again, it is absolutely not a deal I would do in this context or circumstance.
Fair. So Seun, come make me potentially feel better about this signing, man. And do you think that's possible? Come on, be the light.
I'm not here to give that to you, my brother. Sorry, your babes is here to make you happy, not me, bro. I'm sorry. I'm not here to make you happy, bro. I'm here to add to the misery. You see the misery these men have added? I'm here to add double, bro. Listen, since that tweet at 2 p.m., I have tweeted 10 times about Noni Madueke in the space of 6 hours, bro. That will let you know where I am. I have a Word document that is open on my screen. A report was supposed to be completed 5 hours ago. There is 5 words written on that report, bro. I have not been able to think straight at all. And I'm just, I think it's very disappointing. I think, and we do buy a lot into the lip service that the club gives. And, we all assume that after, taking a few windows off, we were going to be immensely active this window. I thought, I was even rationalizing the first few defensive signings in my head. All right, we're getting back up because we're saving the money for the big players. Not for me to know that we're saving the money, the big money for guys like Noni Madueke. It's really, really disappointing, I just think. And I just think there's not really any place to hide. To German's point, right? Attackers cost money. Yes. So I've got no problem spending big money on attackers, but if you're going to spend big money, go and buy the big attackers. Do you know what I mean? You can't shrimp, you can't hide behind it. I was just arguing with someone on the TL. We spent over 300 mil on defenders since Arteta's been here, over 300 mil on midfielders, but we barely spent on forwards. So people keep throwing arguments back at me like PSG has spent hundreds of millions. Well, we spent hundreds of millions. We've just chosen how we want to allocate those resources. So listen, forwards cost more than midfielders and defenders for a reason. They're the guys who win you the game. So I do not want to hear any cheaping out around forwards, especially based on the money we spent on midfielders and defenders. I don't want to hear it. I'm not here to hear it. We have to spend. And we're here to spend. I do not want to see another season of Saka getting triple teamed, another season of him getting doubled up, marked out of games because we have no other threats elsewhere. You need to go out. You need to go and spend the money, bro. You have to spend the money, bro. And if you're not gonna, and if your idea of spending the money is on guys like Madueke, then you're gonna die on that hill fundamentally. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not. I think the guy's got some decent qualities. He's got some okay attributes. But it's funny how the tone of
I ain't trying all that, man.
A lot of people are like, "Oh yeah, back up 30 mil." Yeah, facts. And a lot of people are like, 30 mil back up, rationalize it. How are you rationalizing 50 mil, bro? And it's not even, it's 50 mil that has been rejected, bro. That is the opening bid, which means to me, you are ready to go in higher. How high are you ready to go? God damn. Because if you're ready to go to like 60, that places him like already like the third most expensive player probably signed under Arteta, which is insanity to me. Insanity to me. The Chelsea factor is there as well. Why do they always keep bailing them out? They need to raise money because they're going to fall UEFA, I think, compliant. They're going to fall foul again. Why are we assisting them? Why are we helping them out? Why, bro? I'm cooked, bro. I'm absolutely cooked. And I know them man at Chelsea, they're laughing their heads off, bro. They are creasing, bro. They are, bro. Sorry, I'm not really being coherent with my argument and my response here, but the reality, yeah, look, Cougs has got the Magnum, bro. If you guys won't be watching on screen, he's got Magnum, bro. Look, this is what these men have done to us, bro. I tweeted from our account. I said, listen, you see how jovial and happy, and we were bantering about the Gyökeres pod the other night. It's none of that tonight, bro. I'm fuming. I'm legit livid, bro, and I'm even calming down because to Cougs' point, like trying to rationalize myself on the TL, I feel a lot worse right now. I want to scream, but I don't want to wake my children up, bro. So I'm just here, bro, trying to keep calm, bro. But I'm fuming, bro. It's really, really bad, and I like to the point. Obviously, we'll see what it looks like by the end of summer, but I don't want to hear that you don't have money for Eze or Rodrigo after spending this money on Madueke. You need to get shit done.
I just done the numbers, by the way, because this is my argument. I think they're being cheap. They're trying to complete the squad, and they're trying to be cheap about it. And they still have a lot of faith for Seun and Martinelli. Or he said he's not going to move on. So without that, they said, okay, we'll just get this. But the numbers, yeah. Madueke has a transfer fee, 50 million. Weekly wage, 50k reported. Apparently, he's happy to stay on the same wages. Over the span of 5 years, he will earn 13 million. The total package being 63 million for Madueke. That doesn't take into consideration that Chelsea probably give us relatively favorable repayment terms as well on the transfer fee. Then compare that to Rodrigo, who will be 75 to 80 million. I'm guessing 80 million because there will be competition. I think that price that we've seen quoted will go up slightly. His weekly wage will be no less than 300k. In my opinion, he's already on 2 something at Madrid. This doesn't take into consideration sign-on fee or anything like that, by the way, which again will be significantly bigger for Rodrigo and Madueke. Over 5 years, 300k is 78 million in wages. So the difference here, the Noni Madueke package is 63 million. The Rodrigo package is basically 160 million. So that is what they're looking at, I think, on the other side. And it's like, oh, we think we'll be good enough. If we get Eze, if we get Gyökeres, we can just do Madueke. They'll be all right. Whereas I think that's unambitious because I think they should be doing Eze, Rodrigo, Gyökeres, and the squad will be complete. The squad will be complete. We wouldn't have to think about doing any business in Jan, thinking about moving guys on because the guy that you brought in is not quite good enough. Like it's gonna be a Martinelli Noni thing for a bit. If we get Eze, like to God be the glory. If we get Eze, hopefully he can move both of them out of the team, play left wing. And Rice plays left 8, but that doesn't give us the flexibility we want. We want to see Eze as the left 8. We want to see, a more dynamic, more skillful, more potent winger out on the left. We'll end up having these Noni and Martinelli discussions, and truthfully, they're both not at the required level. So it's just, do you know what I mean? We're gonna run into the scenario next summer where we still need a left-sided attacker and left-sided forward because we'll be talking about let's move Eze in field more. So even though I like Eze out on the left, but I don't like the move on this player. I think it's not the right one.
Well, what I was going to add to that, well, sorry, just to
go on, Khalil.
Just to interrupt, because I hear what you're arguing, right? About when you lay the costs and the amortized costs over like last couple of years. But last summer, we effectively broke even, right? When we factor in sales and who we bought, right? Or it was near enough sort of 1-to-1 in terms of what we spent and then what we recouped. So again, the platform is there for money to be spent. Like I'm not saying
it's there. We know it's there. It is there.
Yeah. I just want to say again, like the money is there to be spent, and that's why I'm just so amped up about how we are then choosing to spend that money. Because as you mentioned, signing Madueke doesn't solve any of our issues. Like not one. Like we still gonna have to go back into the market. So why not go and actually get the guys, as you said, that will actually solve our issues going forward instead of doing this half-assed job once again. But yeah, sorry, that's
Yeah, and that's the thing. I feel like it is very endemic of Arsenal to really not push the boat out when push comes to shove, right? And the last bit of copium that I do have is that they're looking at this Madueke deal as the cheap option, in quote marks, but that's only true to a certain degree, right? So, I think Fabrizio is literally just done a video or something, right? So I'm getting the updates here. He says that Arsenal offered 50 million full package. There's no details of what the discrepancy is or what the fixed price versus the add-ons is there. But Chelsea want to start at 50 million fixed and go up from there. Yeah. So it may be, it's not obviously not going to be done at 50, but it could be 55 to 60 to get it done. And the small bit of copium that I have here is that kind of reduces the effectiveness of what going for someone like Madueke does if you're going to have to then end up paying, 60 million to get that deal over the line. And then you actually would say, well, you know what, maybe I'll look to other players before I go and get Madueke. And the thing that really frustrates me about this move in particular, right, is yeah, fair enough. You're giving Chelsea more money, this, that, and the other, right? But it really annoys me that you see when we're having these conversations about our ability to sell, this, that, and the other, our ability to get fees, this, that, and the other. Madueke's cost Chelsea, what, £35 million all in? And they're getting, what, potentially an extra 15 to 20 to 25 million pounds on top of what they paid for him, without him having to actually do much, without him having to pull up trees, personally, right? So I look at this and I say, is this not an example of what we should be maybe expecting from someone like Berta when it comes to these sales? That, when it comes to signing some of these young players, that, the rumor is that Madueke is on 50k per week. I don't think there's anyone in the first team who's on a similar wage, right? I think Trossard potentially is on under 100k, maybe Kyrgios under 100k. But when you're signing someone like Calafiori, do you need to put him on, such a big wage as a young player coming from Bologna? Does that impact your ability to sell? Why can't we shift Lokonga, who had a very, very decent first season in the Premier League? Potentially, we can't get anyone to buy this guy. I'm seeing pictures of Lokonga. Why is that someone who has to go to the end of their contract before we can get money for him? We're having to, extend the option we have in Lokonga's contract before we can get someone to buy this guy, right? Whereas, Madueke's coming here, I think, having underwhelming season after underwhelming season, the two that he's been in the league. And now Chelsea are making a quick flip. It's a big torch that we're shining on this Arsenal hierarchy, to be honest, because I think, frankly, some of this stuff is very elementary and it's just not good enough, and that's before you talk about the fact it's Arsenal that are giving them these Ps, right? It's incredibly, incredibly, incredibly frustrating to me from basically every angle you look at this deal from. And I think, if we do end up paying £60 million, yeah.
Brian and Bramo was allegedly going for 70. We're paying 60 for Madueke. Yeah.
Looking at the finances again, Madueke is going to earn 3 times less than him. This is a finance thing.
Can I about that though? Because people will go around saying that, yeah, Madueke is on cheap wages, fine. But the notion that he's going to come to Arsenal and not incur a pay rise is something that I feel.
I think Fabrizio already said he's accepted terms on the same package.
Yeah, so I believe that when I see it, because it is absolutely standard for a footballer that's incurring a transfer fee to get a pay rise. Otherwise, what's the point of the agent? What do you mean your client is moving club and you're not getting a pay rise? But that's a side issue. The point is, we're here talking about Madueke's got cheap wages, so it makes sense, and we're juxtaposing that against record revenues and record sponsorship and more money than ever at the club. But we're here cutting corners before the squad's even completed. So, boy, we better be at a parade next summer because I'm tired of hearing about.
This is the thing that's gonna really be known. We're crashing out right now. I think we've calmed down a bit. We're crashing out right now, but it would not surprise me if we fucking win next season. And this is why Arteta is actually crazy, because he doesn't need to do these things. He doesn't need to do these things, but he will do these things. It's like his way or the highway. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get Eze, get Gyökeres, and we're getting it done next season. But we still sat Madueke along the way.
Yeah, he's asking his landlord to increase his rent. What's the point? Like, what are we doing?
I hate his mentality. I have a similar mentality, but it's enough, bro. It's enough.
Bro, you don't have to save everyone, bro. You could just buy a good youth from a good home, bro. Fam, we don't have to be doing single parent, single mum every day. Come on, man, bro.
He wants to be the dad who stepped up so badly,
Bro.
so badly. He's got a fetish for it. Like, it just, I see a tweet yesterday that was like, "Oh, I can't wait for Madueke to prove everyone wrong." Why is there a signing, bro? Every window, why is there a signing? You need to prove someone wrong. Why? Why can't you just buy someone that? So the thing is, what's funny? You see the contrast between the fan reaction to being linked to Madueke and the fan reaction to being linked to Eze. Not that fan reactions are, the be all and end all, but it's like the joy, you know what I'm saying, and the excitement that you have from being linked to a player that is just universally rated, had a fantastic season after a slow start, led his team to, winning a cup. This, that, and the other. It was very similar to when we signed Declan Rice. Do you know what I mean? It's joyful, right? Everyone can get behind this guy, And I do want to say one thing is that people trying to send Madueke abuse, this, that, and the other. Like, let's cut that shit. That's just absolutely ridiculous. I'm sorry. Just be, sensible here. To be honest, you cannot be for the signing this, that, and the other. Don't be going in no players' DMs and sending them nonsense messages and all of this stuff. That's just unacceptable and just ridiculous behavior. Yeah. So, I want to say that just for once, I would like to just have a nice, clean, that's what I call it, clean summer where I can just be, super positive. Oh, this guy's going to come and do this. This guy's going to come and do that. I'm not having to squint to see what the plan is. Every summer there's this guy's trying to do some, convoluted thing. If it's not Raya competing with Ramsdale, if it's not, Kai Havertz coming in, if it's not Mikel Merino coming in to play left centre midfield, like, why can't we just sign guys who are cold or who have the potential to be really cold? You get what I'm saying?
I'm not gonna lie. I blame you, man. That's make Arsenal back again. They heard you lot. Have that.
Yeah, they want to got us a DEI hire. We were talking about top class players that we want here, man.
Yeah, you lot asked for it, man. With your Pan-Africanism and all that shit, man. God damn. That what you wanted, huh?
God. So let's change topic, man. This 40 minutes.
40 minutes on Madueke is
40
great.
minutes on Madueke. No.
Topic,
There is other topics.
No gods.
There is.
Come on, man.
Let's talk about the number 9, man. Let's talk about the number 9. So the last patron piece that we did on Monday, released on Monday, was Victor Gyökeres. So Fabrizio, on his latest video, actually has said, let Arsenal work. That deal is very, very advanced. So it looks like that one is going to be coming through the door. And so if we think about that transfer, it was Gyökeres versus Sesko. If you do want to check out the tapes, we did the second version of the tapes, refreshed them for this season for Gyökeres. And I think the general consensus was, the group chat was pretty happy after watching those tapes. They think he can bring a lot to the team. So Khalil, tell me how you feel about that signing. What that might mean for us going forward next season, both figuratively and literally on the pitch.
Something just hit me. Word to Dr. Umar. If our manager got his way, you would have want to spend like 90 million on Sesko and another 60 million on Madueke. So just putting that out there. It could be worse. But yeah, how do I feel about Gyökeres tactically? I think we've all said the same, which is there'll probably be an evolution of how we sort of construct attacks if you want to get the best out of him. I think it will be nice for us to have like a channel like threat and an in behind threat, and someone, as we've seen from the tapes, he can actually carry the ball himself a lot in those transitional moments as well to create danger. There's been a lot made about his heading ability and his lack thereof. I think I'm not as concerned as others in that regard. Even though obviously we are cross-orientated, I think there's a lot of times when we do get to the byline and the ball is flashed across the box and there's absolutely no one challenging it. So it's not just a case of in swinging crosses that we're just waiting on Gyökeres to feast upon. But again, this is why we've also spoken about other recruitment like Eze and so on, because the idea would be that you've got much more cleaner and quicker central access if you combine that with Zubimendi as well. And that's where you can find Gyökeres in those spaces. I think, again, we all know that we get... I say we all know. No, let me backtrack. There's definitely the perception that we somehow don't have transitional moments to feast upon. And I'm telling you, there's a comp floating around Twitter. Go watch it yourself of how many transitional opportunities we absolutely fumbled last season. It is a disgrace how badly, and it's not even just like the lesser players. Like sometimes even our better players in those situations fumble them. So you got a guy who, as soon as he gets into an isolated position with a defender, he's looking to shoot. He's looking to get shots off. He's looking to attack. And we'll get an extra, 5 to 10 goals from those scenarios, and probably you get opportunities to sustain pressure in that way. So that's one thing. And then the second thing after that is, yes, we are a team that's going to come up against settled defenses. But again, what really encouraged me from those tapes is the few games that we saw where he was coming up against slightly more settled defenses, especially in the Champions League. He is able to link. Now, it's not as smooth as you want it with someone like Jesus, but again, to me, this is the sort of striker where, let's say 5 to 10 years ago, I don't think we're talking about his flaws as much as we are. I think that's also amplified by like how sort of Arsenal fans try to get a lot in the nitty gritty with Arteta's tactical setups, that like they have an idea that it's so rigid that we just cannot imagine another form of playing. But yeah, I'm generally sort of looking forward, if that deal is completed, to seeing how we evolve with Gyökeres, and I think he'll force us to evolve as well. He is someone that, as you mentioned, having viewed the tapes, I'm a lot better on him than I was before. I was a casual fan before. I was a person who was a fan of his finishing ability, but was unsure about the rest. But I've definitely seen enough to be very, very encouraged as to his ability to translate to the Premier League and in Europe as well. So yeah, I'm definitely, despite the events of today, I'm definitely up on that transfer generally. And for some reason, being 27 is a crime now on football Twitter. Being in your prime is a bad thing now. Too many accountants, in my opinion. We're trying to win right now. I don't care what a guy might do in 3 to 4 years' time. And I've already said, now that the Sesko stands are telling me that he's going to be the best striker of all time, I'm watching very closely as to how his career develops from here. But we want instant impact. This is why we're all crashing out over Noni Madueke. And I think Gyökeres gives us instant impact. And I think he gives a lift to our other attackers as well. To have a focal point who's so driven and so focused on doing what he does, which is put the ball in the back of the net. Everything else is secondary.
Yeah, fair play, man. Fair play. Because for me, I am actually very excited about that signing. I do think his overall game is probably a bit underrated based on some of the analysis that you do see on the that is called X. So I think he can come in and have a real impact to that front line. I think one of the main question marks is, can we have some threat centrally in the team? I actually do think that he probably helps Martinelli quite a bit in coming off that touchline. Whether or not you agree with Martinelli needing help, this and the other, remains to be
This is
seen.
year 3 of Martinelli is getting some help.
It is.
Year
It's also the year that we're signing Noni Madueke, bro. So I need to find simple silver linings here. Yeah, I need to find silver linings here because for me, he does like to drift into the channels quite a bit. So I think we'll actually see Saka central a lot more in terms of positional rotation when Gyökeres does drift out to the flanks and Martinelli as well. And I just like the fact that this guy can shoot. This guy can generate his own shot, and he hits the side netting when he is presented with a chance, right? So, Sushi, you said there's no other topics to discuss, but let's hear your thoughts on Gyökeres as well, and what hit that addition might do for us as a team.
Yeah, I see positives and negatives in Gyökeres. I think on the Patreon piece we go into a lot of details. So obviously, if you want the proper breakdown of what we saw and live commentating on the game footage, then you need to watch the Patreon. But keeping it brief, I feel like he's got strengths that probably people don't attribute to him. I think he's the obvious ones are the finishing and physicality from what we've seen in the games that we've seen. So we need to see how that translates against the very best. I did think he wanted to. He wanted to scrap with Gabriel and Saliba. He was just moved up, and we've seen them do that to other players as well. We've seen them do that to Haaland and a number of other Premier League strikers, to be honest. So that's probably not the bar I'm judging him against, but it would be great if he could move some of these guys up as well. That's part of the task, I think, for him. So I think that those are the obvious strengths, physicality in his finishing. Then the less obvious strengths, I felt like I don't think his touch is unbelievable or anything like that, but I feel like he's got a solid enough touch, and his reception looked better than I initially thought. I think people have misjudged what his weaknesses were. I think they attributed this to his touch, but it's more protecting the ball, and then at times also balanced. So he's obviously a strong guy, but being balanced via running and carrying all that weight. It seems like he can get bummed a little bit, and he does tend to win quite a few fouls this way. So I think balance and protecting the ball seem like weaknesses. Also, just challenging aerially seems like a weakness. But I felt like his willingness, his relentlessness was like so evident in the tapes that he wants to score, that he wants to make an impact. There was one sequence in one of the games where I think he had 8 receives in a row, and every single time he tried to turn. And I was looking at the minute clock. It wasn't like this was a minute 20, this was a minute 65. It was like in relatively short in time close to each other. So I feel like he wants to make an impact. He feels like his responsibility to make an impact, which is one of the things I have said often, that what I want in the players that we sign in, players that feel responsible for making an impact. And I think he meets that requirement. And I do also think that Eze meets that requirement. So both of those signings I will be very happy with. The rest TBC. But yeah.
Yeah, man. Question, Sean, I have for you is obviously the fan sentiment around the Madueke signing. I'm going back to Madueke, sorry. Is very, very different, I would say, to what you would normally expect from new signings. And it's big furor online. I've not called my dad yet because I don't want to hear him shouting down the phone to me. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to let it rest for at least one day before I try and bring up the topic of Arsenal transfers with him. But Do you feel like the club? Well, I think it's obvious the club don't care really, but do you feel like the club factor it in at all into some of the decisions that they make potentially, right? Because I'm seeing one tweet from the doctor that I do think is quite relevant. That I think this is going to be a pressurized season, full stop. Because of finishing second 3 seasons in a row, and the doctor says signing players that the fans hate does no favors for the atmosphere and feeling around the club, right? So, do you feel like this signing almost increases the pressure on the team to really deliver something in this upcoming season?
I think there's pressure anyway. There's always pressure. I guess it's also important to note that there is still probably a distinction between what people say online and generally the match-going fans. So how much of that translates into match-going fans remains to be seen. But I think there will be additional pressure, maybe if not so from upstairs, but definitely internally from the fans. I think he's asked for forwards. He's going to be backed with forwards, whoever he chooses. I've always been of the opinion, give Arteta what he wants, so he doesn't have a leg to stand on if it doesn't deliver next season. So sentiment, to be fair, I don't think you should care what fans think generally, because if you took on what fans thought all the time, there are some fans I remember that really wanted Ivan Toney, and I definitely did not want no damn Ivan Toney at my club. So I think you've got to do your due diligence, right? These are the professionals, so you've got to trust them in terms of the decision making that they make, and obviously they're not going to get all of it right, but you are still going to be held accountable by the decisions that you make, especially when you spend a lot on some of those individuals and some of those players. And where we are now, we're going into the 6th full season of Arteta in charge. He has completely revamped this squad. Everyone here is who he wants. There isn't a single player left from the Wenger regime, even pretty much through the Emery era, apart from the ones that were signed by Raul. So he has pretty much what he wants, and I hope that Berta gives him the attackers he wants. So we're in that position. So there will be pressure. I think he puts pressure on himself, which is good, because there is a level of accountability there. But I really don't. I don't know, and there'll be pressure externally from the media as well. But how much of it is coming from above, which is still the most important thing. I think generally with Arsenal managers, and I'm not obviously saying that he should get sacked right now, but Arsenal managers tend to get sacked for 2 reasons. One, you don't make Champions League, and 2, fans stop turning up. I think a lot of it, once you had the apathy, that was it really with Wenger. Fans stopped turning up. They had to make the change. Emery, fans had no interest. Fans stopped turning up, and he bottled Europa and the top 4 as well. So generally, I still think the manager has a lot of positive sentiment, and he probably built up a lot of goodwill, but that's got to end at some point. And speaking from my perspective personally, I just think you've had a long stint in charge. You've had a lot of time. Like, it's time for you to deliver. And I just think if you can't, it's thank you for improving us. Thank you for getting us to a certain point. But I think at a certain point also, we've got to have a conversation. If you are the person to get us over the line, like, how many chances is enough chances? So I'm really hopeful that we give him the pieces and the tools he needs, but it has to be a deliver season for me, man. It has to be.
Can I, sorry to interrupt as well. I'm going to repeat something I said earlier, but I think it answers your question as well about fan sentiment. I think what's made it worse is the fact we did nothing in January. Like, you're telling people you're going to wait till the summer to get what you need to get done. And this is what you're telling us is part of the solution. I think that's a big part of it. Then obviously you add in the ex-Chelsea stuff and add in the fact that we're not enamored about the player anyway. But it is a perfect storm of head loss, in my opinion, that this is how it's happened. Because, for example, if we had secured Eze by now, right, and we secured Gyökeres, I'm not saying people will be thrilled with the notion of Madueke coming, but the fact that those other deals haven't been secured as of yet, and then it seems as if we're spending a big pot of capital on a guy that none of us believe is the answer, I think that's what's further added to the fan sentiment. And I think it's slightly unfair. I mean, it is unfair Madueke, because as you've mentioned already, like the hashtags and the personal abuse is all just ridiculous. Like football should never, ever, ever get to that stage. But yeah, it's just the perfect storm of we've been told to wait since January. We've been waiting for forwards, plural, since God knows how long, a couple of years now. And this is what you are actively telling us when you're under no duress in terms of like, this is not January, this is not like a conflicting, whatever it is, that you have to do whatever you want. And this is the decision that you're making. And I think this is what's definitely contributed to all of our collective head losses today, unless, I've missed something.
Yeah, and I do actually think the timing of deals is quite key here, actually, because I think if you had secured your striker and Eze, there would probably be a bit more leniency in then, when people are talking about, we've actually gone big on a striker, we've gone big on a, really popular attacking midfielder. And when you're talking about, potentially saving money here and there, or you've allocated your funds in this way and that way, people will probably be able to rationalize it a bit more. And I think the bit that is a little bit confusing to me is if you're saying, deals are kind of more difficult to do, or deals are, contingent on, the price, etc. It does seem very strange for me, the speed within which they've accelerated this move. And I think the thing that, maybe, this is me just going out there, is that, they know Eze is going to be a fixed price. They have their limit on, what they think the striker is going to be. And they think they're, going to be able to lodge these men and get these men in within a reasonable time frame. Hence, after Noni say, I'm just praying that we're able to do Eze on top of this, because I think if we don't get Eze in, then I think fans would be really, really angry. I think they'd be really, really disappointed with what happens in the window. And, I'm not a fan of the Madueke deal. Obviously I'm a Martinelli fan, this and the other. So, I'm not going to be too mad at this guy starting left wing next season. But, I think the fans were ready for a change, ready for an upgrade there. You don't necessarily see that on paper with your Madueke left wing. I think fans will be, questioning certain things if Eze doesn't land, and if I think Gyökeres will land, so I don't think there's a possibility there. But I think after this Madueke deal gets closed, I think the club need to close Eze sharpish after that. Personally, that's just my feeling, because otherwise, I think next season could get toxic very quickly if that hard start that we've got fixture wise doesn't go the way that we want. I think it could be a very, very, very tough season for us. And that's not to say that those games won't go our way. I think we are equipped to deal with those games even without any signings. Personally, if our players are back fit with full pre-seasons, etc. But I think there's a lot on the line here for Arteta and the gang.
Actually,
Sushi, you came off mute, so.
Sorry, I was just even going to say that point you made about the start. Actually, I think is very important. If we don't make a good start, pressure could definitely ramp up. So and I just wanted to add that I think sentiment could start to turn if we start the season badly and we don't get the attackers in. You could see how things could change very, very quickly. So yeah, fair point.
Just on that quickly, I don't think we'll start the season badly, by the way.
No. I don't think we will, and I hope we don't. I just think I'm just presenting a scenario where I
get why people you're forecasting, what the reactions could be, X, Y, and Z. But I've seen this with Arteta now. The guy's gonna make it work somehow. So he's gonna do just enough, I think, to make it work again. If we have everyone fit, I think we'll start fine. That doesn't make the Madueke sounding any better. But I think I just have this feeling that there's this, there's going to be a way of them making it work again, and he's done it window after window after window. Now I think, and there's always been complaints about the business, like literally every single summer. There hasn't been a summer where Arsenal fans have been there. Yeah, I'm happy with the business. That doesn't happen. We've always crashed. Probably last summer was the only one where people kind of held back because the team got very, very close. So like, do we need that much? We're pretty close.
Nah, last summer
no,
though,
last summer,
Sterling on loan.
I don't think it was a crash out like that. I'll be real. People were quite open to that, especially late in the window. And so I don't think this is anywhere near as what we've seen before, like what we've seen now, what we've seen with Havertz, what we've seen with Ramsdale, what we even seen with Ben White. If you guys remember, that was a crash out. Ben White signing was a crash out as well. So Willian crash out. We've seen some proper crash outs. We've seen the crash outs of when Oba got his contract cancelled, when Özil got his contract cancelled. Like there's always been crash out. It's never been smooth sailing, and he's still here. And apart from last season, he somehow has been really competitive and with what he has in the team usually. So there's still part of me thinks that we will do relatively well next season. Whether we get it over the line, that's the different question, because with Madueke starting semi-finals, I don't know if it will, but or playing semi-finals, I don't know if it will, but I think we'll be relatively close again, which I think as long as we win games at the Emirates, people will turn up. That's to be honest, and I think you made a good point, Sean. If it hurts the pockets, that's when they usually pull the trigger. If it doesn't we will get Champions League. I'm pretty sure of that. I think that the team will win reasonable amount of games. And he'll get through it. So that doesn't make it right. That doesn't make it right, in my opinion. So yeah, I think this Madueke signing, and maybe we're crashing out. Is there a reality? And then this is like insane copying I've seen people say online. Is there a reality that they think we're selling a couple of guys and we're just buying someone like Madueke and thinking we'll keep him on the books? We know Jesus is leaving. We know XYZ is leaving next year. Basically overbuying, which is what we've not done in the past, which other teams tend to do. I don't know if that's a possibility. It doesn't look like it. I would also say we should wait and see what Ornstein actually says. I know a bid has been made, and I can see Madueke being done. But what is Ornstein saying? Is he saying there's just Eze? Is he saying just Gyökeres? Like, I think at the moment it's very vague, and this is why there's a big crasher, because people don't know what's going to follow this.
He hasn't commented on the Madueke bid that Fabrizio has either. Fabrizio said something, but Ornstein hasn't said anything yet. So let's see.
So he hasn't confirmed it or the details of it. And the other part is what was I going to say? We were speaking about the sequencing, right, of transfers, and I think the sequence, in my opinion, still doesn't matter if the target is correct. If you're buying the defenders first, you're buying Mosquito and Norgard and Kappa first, and then you getting, you even sign Gyökeres last, or you sign Eze last, like whatever it is. If that winger is not Madueke, people are not crashing out. I think if this is a slightly more exciting option, more, a better option, even, I think people are not crashing out. It is the player rather than the sequence, I think, that has people crashing, to be honest. So yeah, like if we wouldn't sign a left winger and that until the end of the window, and we wouldn't know who it is, and ends up being Rodrigo, no one is going to lose it over the sequence, but they'll lose it over the player that's going to come through the door. So I think that's what it is.
It's also the allocation, right? Because let's say Rodrigo leaves, and I think there's a reasonable chance that he ends up.
I think there's a high chance. He's been benched 5 times in a row now.
Exactly. So it's like, if that guy leaves and you were unable to even make an attempt because you have allocated resources in the way that you have, that's where people are really going to lose it. Because I think I even said in the group, I'm not I can see a scenario in which we go for Rodrigo and for some reason it doesn't happen. As frustrated as I will be, I can live with that to a certain extent, as opposed to the alternative, which is we have decided to invest elsewhere, and that is what has precluded us from going after Rodrigo. I think that's the scenario that I think I would find very, very difficult to sort of accept, especially when you've already made references to like cutting corners financially and all that. It's like, so what's the point of doing all this to get to this stage to then do these left turns? You know, like it's just very, very disappointing.
Madrid have played 75 minutes in this game, are losing 3-0, have made 3 subs, and Rodrigo's still not on the pitch.
Jeez.
3 subs, yeah, 3 subs looks like it.
He's doing the Madueke role already.
4 subs. Oh my god. 4 subs. Rodrigo.
I definitely think he's leaving. I think the way they've it's kind of
Ceballos ain't on either, by the way. Hold that.
Yeah. I think it's kind of stupid that they've said, "Oh, we're not going to talk about this until the end of the Club World Cup," because for me, it's very clear the writing's on the wall here. Right? They've signed this Mastantuano guy as well, whom the reporting says is going to be part of the first team. Xabi Alonso really appreciates him. This, that, and the other. I just think the way that they used him in this tournament, the writing is clearly on the wall here. That if this was a guy that you had interest in using for the season, that this is a new manager as well. You know, so it's not even like, oh, Ancelotti's come in and said, you know, I've seen what this guy's about. You know, I'm going to try new things. I think for a new manager to come in and you not feature speaks volumes, because what the new managers do normally is they play everyone, they take a look at everyone in the match scenarios, this and the other. He's already kind of decided and said, this guy is not part of my plans, as far as I'm concerned. So I think they should have been talking to people throughout this tournament, to be honest. I just think they should have.
It is Real Madrid, though, that I think they're not engaging right now. They're saying we're focusing on this tournament. So that's the stance they've taken, which I understand, but they should have waited. They should be waiting to make the move, be ready to make the move. But like, I'm looking at it now. He's played 3 games, across 3 games in the Club World Cup. He's played 100 minutes. So 30 minutes per game. And Real Madrid have been, what, in 5, 6 games? I don't know. But yeah, it's over. It's over, baby.
It's clear. It's very clear to me that he's going to be leaving, personally, and so, you know, it will be very interesting to see what happens there. You know, Liverpool rumored to be in the market for left winger, Bayern Munich in the market for a left winger. You know, so. I probably do think he ends up at one of those 2 clubs at the end of this window over us, given what we're doing with Madueke. And yeah, I'll be watching the numbers closely on that one, because
if he ends up at Liverpool uncontested, that is unforgivable. I'm sorry. Like, you should be in a position to capitalize. That's what is a market opportunity to me. not some dead wood off your rivals, man. Like, you need to be recruiting the best to come and play. So yeah, we will be watching that with close eyes. But yeah, I'm expecting Rodrigo to move. Like I said, I'm not even saying that it's a must that we sign him in a way that he, like, because there's going to be competition, but we need to actually be there to attempt. That's my thing, because the way it's looking, it's almost like we're making decisions that are either going to preclude us from even exploring that deal, and that is a thing that's unforgivable to me. But yeah, let's just fast forward to September, man, because I can't keep doing these hypothetical. I want to be full-blooded.
We ain't
all in. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to have to keep on second guessing what's going on.
We ain't got Bernard's watch, man. We can't fast forward, man. So you're just gonna have to live it like the rest of us can live it. You're just gonna have to live it, man. So we do have some listeners' questions. I'm gonna try and fly through this because, guys, I'm sorry, man. I don't even think I'm gonna sleep tonight, man. My head is finished. My head is so finished. I can't believe that we're doing it. You know, when they do the Noni Madueke announcement video, yeah. Oh my goodness, man. I'm gonna be so disgusted. I'm just gonna me saying the words out loud is cooking me, man. It's absolutely cooking me, bruv. Because you know what it is? Do you know what's pissed me off about this year is that, like, you know, man, them joke throughout the season, who are we going to be signing from Chelsea? As banter. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. As banter.
Yeah.
Oh, they're going to be signing, we're going to be after Mudryk. They're going to be after this. But this club actually fucking does it. Like, this club actually does it every window, yeah? Coming to Chelsea's bin, and I'm thinking, Kepa, cool, calm. We've got that out the way. Now they're fucking doubling down. Yeah, just why?
It's so bad. Like, you know, when you get linked to mid, you can just dismiss it. We get linked to mid, we got to worry. Like, why are we still worried in 2025 when we get linked to mid?
Ever since Willian, now I have to take every single.
We've got to take it serious.
Serious. You know what I'm saying? I have to take every single one serious.
Chill out, man.
Nah, bro. Nah, Sushi. You know when they said, you know when I saw the Nicholas Jackson link, yeah? I wanted to dismiss it. Yeah, but I couldn't dismiss it.
Now.
Big man thing, yeah. If Nicholas Jackson's get sold next summer, we are going to be there sniffing. I promise you, bro.
I just hope it's this summer, brother.
2-for-1 special, you know. We're gonna be waiting.
Nah, Jackson.
Right.
No, do you know? Jackson, man. They would do the due diligence. Something will come back on that report.
I know exactly what you're hitting at as well. That's what makes it mad.
Madueke is lucky he was born in the UK, man. That's what I'm saying.
They're gonna say something's gonna come back on that report. Yeah, German, yeah. Let me not talk too much. But yeah, so let's go for some listeners' questions. By Yonko Abs, he says, assuming we get Eze, Nogard, Kepa, Mosquera, Madueke, and Gyökeres only, what do you think about the ins this summer?
Kepa, but you know, it's cheap. Norgard, I would prefer younger type, but I'm not crashing out. But yeah, Madueke, as we discussed, nah. And then Gyökeres, we're happy. So what does that make it? A 5 out of 10? 6 out of 10?
He didn't say Eze.
Did he say Eze?
No, he didn't. No, he said Eze first. Eze.
Oh, okay. Yeah. B grade. Because Gyökeres and Eze.
If we get Eze, this is for me is still 8. Eze's peak.
Yeah, Eze and Gyökeres.
Eze and the striker's peak. That's them. Yeah, and Zubimendi too. Did he say Zubimendi? Those three are all good. Those three are all good additions. The Madueke thing is just what is going on?
It's very disappointing. You know, you're right. Because I personally think Zubimendi is an underrated signing that people aren't really deep in what the guy brings. Because I think him.
Partey was a net negative last season.
I think him over Partey is absolutely massive. I think Gyökeres coming in, you know, whatever people think about him, I think the attributes that he brings to the team, just in terms of the aggression, wanting to turn on the ball, the willingness to run in behind, and the finishing, makes a big difference to the team. And then Eze, I think he brings just unbelievable quality to the team that I think are lacking potentially, you know, overall. So those three alone, I think, elevates the team significantly. I'm not going to lie. And then, you know, Madueke, we've actually spoken on him plenty so far, to be honest. So yeah. So
Rose back in the executive boxes though.
I can't buy bread with that, brother. I can't.
Just trying to look for the positives.
Ever seen Lato in an Arsenal shirt? I can't do nothing with that, brother. Where are my signings?
All I'm gonna say.
Why is Lato wearing the Arsenal shirt and not Rodrigo? Why?
All I'm gonna say is, Les, listener, Les, you know who you are. If you can pattern the thing when Ruby Rose is there.
You're crazy, boy.
Let's do business, man. Let's do business. Let's do
You know what? I'm fully for the transfer now. Fuck it, I'm all in.
Let's do business, man. Let's do business. Aside of Sawiti in there, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's cool. It's cool, man. Let's do business, man. Let's do
Yeah,
business.
shout him out.
So Ray's 97, he says, who are we having as our next manager? Because this Chelsea sleeper agent isn't lasting any longer.
If you're sick of Chelsea now, just wait until Cesc Fabregas is linked to the Arsenal job. That's when you're going to see like the peak ex-Chelsea Arsenal links being solidified. But I've got to ask you this question: who do you think we'd actually go for in terms of profile? Not even a name. Do you think we're going to go for like another young, cheap coach with promise, or do you think we're going to go for an established name? Because I think we'd probably go down the Arteta route all over again.
I have absolutely no idea if the club are even doing any sort of
We're not doing anything, man.
future
Tell you
planning.
what, I'm not answering this question because Arteta's going to be the manager next season.
Yeah,
Mm.
he's not getting sacked unless he's outside Champions League places, and it's
If anything, that brother might walk.
I think he's more likely to walk than be sacked, personally. But I don't think he has a right to walk.
I was going to say.
I'm being dead serious, bro.
It's not as shameless as he does, you know. You've come, you basically molded the club in your image. You've gotten the vast majority of everything that you wanted.
You lot can't play both sides, yeah?
What do you mean?
You man can't say if he doesn't get it done next year, he needs to get sacked. Then say he can't walk.
No, because he can't walk if he wants to. It's shameless if he.
I'm back in my sushi bag, man. I woke up again, man. Man, wake it.
No. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't think he's got the right to walk because for me, this is now a case of, you know, big man thing. Yeah, big man thing. Yeah,
You're killing me today.
You have been backed with all of the left field flipping options that you want. Yeah, the club saying that they don't want Sesko for 90 million euro, I think, is a completely fundamentally understandable position to take. This and the other, yeah. So anything associated with not getting us over the line, I think, is Arteta related. You know what I'm saying? I don't think you can turn and look at after this window. If we get the players that we think we're linked to, but from the reporting, it looks like it's even Berta that's pushing the Eze thing. It's not even Arteta. You know what I'm saying? I've not seen the reporting saying that, you know, Arteta had the phone call with Eze the same way I've seen him having the phone call with Madueke. I'm not seeing, Arteta's pushing this person versus that person. He didn't want, like, do you get what I'm saying? So, you know, if you're out here, you're getting your Kai Havertz's in and putting them on 300k. You're getting your Noni Madueke's in and putting. You can't walk. You need to make this work, my guy. You need to make this work. And I was in the camp of, you know, KSE. You can't be pulling the rug from people after you back them so far. You need to keep spending. The spending don't stop, as far as I'm concerned. If you want to win, you spend. Yeah. If this is your manager, you spend. So that's what it looks like they're going to be doing. It looks like we're going to be spending 200 plus this window. If they do that, Mikel, you can't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. You need to make this work, as far as I'm concerned. 900 M's spent plus after this window. My guy, you better deliver me a Champions League. You better deliver me a Premier League. I'm sorry. There's no two ways about it. There actually isn't.
Agreed.
Chai. Anyways.
Tibbs. That ran, Mr. Cooks.
Tibbs 11, he says, if we get Eze along with everyone else, Rodrigo and Madueke, do you think this will displace Ethan and he might actually leave? So that's if you get Eze, Rodrigo, and Madueke.
I don't think so. No, why?
I think
Rodrigo Madueke left wing a lot. No, that's got to be the thinking. Madueke, Saka back up, and I think Ethan is the Odegaard back up. So I think Eze is on the other side. He'll start left wing or that left 8. So I think Ethan is the Odegaard back up. I hope he starts rotating Odegaard a bit more because he was just running them down the last couple of seasons. But I think that's Ethan's role in the team. So,
Yeah, so it's linked to the next question, right? It says from AKNMC. He says, which position do you see Ethan get more game time in next season? 8/10, 8/10, or a winger, right? So the interesting thing for me is I think if we want him to get more minutes, I think the manager needs to be way more flexible, not just in rotation, but in how we set up as well. Because it's not just Ethan, it's Dowman as well. That's behind it, right? That, people are saying Dowman's going to be part of the first team. And I think fundamentally, we need to be in a position where we can play Ethan and Odegaard together, potentially in certain games. Play, if you do get Eze in, play an Eze and Odegaard in, because that actually gives you a bigger platform for Ethan to come in and perform. And feature, because we were having this conversation earlier about Ethan maybe going on loan, and actually, let me ask you guys, what was your position on, say we do get Eze, right? Would you support an Ethan loan or not?
There's too much that can go wrong, but more importantly, he's got the quality to impact Arsenal now. Like I'm not a big fan of him going out on loan at this stage. I'd much rather have him here, get him used to, or get him more accustomed to the demands of what Arteta wants in his team, and get those central minutes under his belt. Because as we keep on saying, he's only going to learn if he gets the minutes to play in this particular Arsenal team. And I think there are minutes to go around. The seasons are getting ever longer. The demands are getting ever higher. We've spoken about Odegaard already being ran into the ground. There are minutes to be had. I think it's just a bit of, I guess Arteta needs an extra push in that regard. But no, I'm not of the mindset of wanting to see Ethan go out on loan at all now. I think it's better if he stays in place.
Listen. I didn't do a son for a son to be sending the son on loan to Crystal Palace the season after. That's not why I did the sacrifice, man. So no, I'm not for that. Plus, Ethan is better than Madueke.
Yes, even at right wing as well, because people keep on asking.
At right wing, he for sure is better. I actually think the only argument you can make for Madueke being decent is probably left wing, because he's not going to live up to what Saka can do on the right wing, and also what Ethan can do on the right wing. So the only value adds, and that's me trying to be objective now, he could probably bring is on the left, because we have really struggled on that left side. He can't add value on the right, in my opinion.
No,
I don't really think he can. Like, be dead serious. So that's only on the left, and I don't envision Ethan being on that left hand side being very aggressive. He's not that type of player. So that's the only thing Madueke can add. So yeah, no loan to Ethan. I think they need to be very careful who they're getting in, given the fact that we want Ethan to stay at the club, given the fact we want Max Dowman to stay at this club. Like, all of this needs to be considered with who you're signing. That's why someone like Norgard, I preferred that, because I know in 2 years' time, he's going to be out the door. Marcelo Skelly can play midfield. That role opens up again. Those players have development to do, but you need to make the spaces for them. If you block in those spaces, you will lose one or two of them.
The thing for me about the Ethan thing is that I think it does require the manager to be way more flexible, and I'm very wary about how flexible he's going to be, especially if the pressure is ramped up. There may be reasons for Ethan not necessarily featuring so much towards the end of the season. Some people said, his camp felt he was overplayed, but then you've seen the rumours come out now about, he wants guarantees around his game time, and I think sort of both arguments can be substantiated. I think his first run in the team, playing every 3 days, he picked up the hamstring injury, right? And he was out for a little while. The doctor very early on, had some concerns about his maybe aerobic capacity to complete games when he was starting. You know,
Just say fitness, brother. What do you mean aerobic?
nah, what I said was very
What we
clear.
doing here, man?
Yeah, because I think you say physicality and people get the wrong end of the stick, right? I think it's fitness and conditioning. You know, I think conditioning more than the fitness, because I think the guy can run, he can sprint. You know, I think he's actually very physical in terms of the being able to, you know, ride challenges and ride contact and that kind of thing. But his ability, I think, to then, you know, do the repeat sprints on the flank is definitely a question mark. And you do the defensive work, the pressing, etc. Is definitely a question mark as well. And I think, you know, he even mentioned that in some of the under 21 conversations there. But I think, you know, Odegaard is going to play a lot of the games, but, you know, do you have the flexibility to play Ethan with him? Do you have the flexibility to use him in a lot of different positions? You know, there was talk about him being a false nine last season, but we never actually really saw it in practice, even when we didn't have a striker, right? And that was some of the stuff that, you know, I think was a little bit disappointing. That, you know, it was I can't remember who started up for it. Was Trossard, I think, up top in the Leicester game. Marino came on, scored the 2 goals, and that was the solution. We didn't see Martinelli up top. We didn't see Ethan up top. We didn't see anything else in terms of the manager trying things in, I think, a crucial period, right? So, you know, I do think there are a number of ways to make sure that Ethan gets minutes in men's football next season, and it's up to the manager to really make sure that is something that happens, right? So, you know what, let's go to the next question. So Baitface Nate, he says, agenda aside, why do you think we keep buying from the West London Blues? Is it Stockholm syndrome, or do you generally see merit in what the club is doing?
You know, it's a bad thing that SV Carboholic has left, because I'm gonna say, is he aware of like who like the West London underworld people are? Because I know way back when he used to run the streets of London, and then he no longer does anymore. I need to know if he's got contacts still. Just let me know what is going on in West London that is forcing Mikel Arteta to be handing over large sums of cash to this institution, and for them to be running off and paying their bills with it.
I generally think they rate the players that they're getting from them.
Really?
Yeah.
They do, yeah.
Like Willian, I never liked Willian, but Willian was, if we start with Willian was, I think, a successful signing for Chelsea. He was there for a number of years. He was integral. He was good for them. You know, I never was convinced by his quality, but they looked at him and said, this is someone that we can get on cheaper wages, being older. He should be good. And he wasn't good. He was horrible. So they got that one completely wrong. Then Havertz, I think, is a player that they looked at, broken egg. You know, that really did it really well with Leverkusen, had some key moments at Chelsea. They said, this is a guy we can develop and he can be crucial for us. First half of the season, really, really bad. Second half of the season, really, really strong in this first season, I believe. So they kind of probably feel justified in that choice. Jorginho is a player that's very, very experienced and has high quality, in my opinion. That's the only signing I can say has holistically worked. Whilst I'm a fan of Havertz, I don't think overall it has completely worked yet. The injury has shattered the second half of the season for him, and he's only had that first half of the season where he's been, I think, really good. First half of last season, he was okay. I know he scored like 15 goals, but I don't think, you know, his performance levels were to the level before that. So overall, that signing is in the mids for me. Jorginho's been good. Willian has been shocking. And who else have we got from Chelsea? We're now looking at Madueke, again, a player I think that they rate. There's narrative around this player. David Luiz, when they signed him, he probably was a value add. I know we didn't like him when we signed him, but that signing, when you look back, they probably look at, you know, the output, you know, how much he cost. Apparently, was really good with the young players at the time. He had that obvious quality on the ball. He had also the Boza gene. So again, I think a signing that they're probably internally viewing that we did okay with that signing. So I generally think that they like some of these players that they're signing. It's not, I don't think anything's sinister. I don't think it's a American ownership thing. I actually think they like these players. And there'll probably be other players that we would sign from there.
But just to ask a quick question though. Well, at the end of the day, right? Chelsea are direct rivals. I don't see
the clubs. The clubs don't have a rivalry at corporate level. It's not like Spurs and Arsenal. Spurs and Arsenal don't really do business. They don't really get on. They oppose each other in meetings and like their vote. Even though they have similar interests, they're not. I don't think that's a proper rivalry. I think on the exact level, like Arsenal and Chelsea have done a lot of business. I don't really think they view it as this rivalry that fans view it as, to be really honest.
Yeah, so it's not so much the fan sentiment, it's more so that the business has been one way. Like, I don't see Chelsea, even if they need to squad build, coming over to us and taking like a Zinchenko offers, for example.
But Zinchenko is not a promising player, and they only sign promising players. So
but insert player here. Like, I mean, as in, like, are Chelsea really coming and paying over the odds for guys that we don't necessarily want? Is my point. Is that I'm making? I don't think
so. No.
So I think that's what adds to the frustration. It doesn't feel like a mutually beneficial relationship.
Put it this way as well. We are not willing to sell players as much as they are. They are very willing to do business on players. They're, someone like Mount, for example, if that's an Arsenal academy product, that is a bit disgruntled, Arsenal will probably try to keep him after winning the Champions League X, Y, and Z. He'd probably still be at the club. Whereas, Chelsea sold him. Like, I don't think Arsenal would. Do you know what I mean? So even the players that they would want from us, we probably wouldn't sell to them. So that's why it's also one way. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think with Clear Lake, it opens up the possibilities to do a lot more of this business in that direction because of their model.
There's so many players.
Yeah, they have a lot of players, and I actually do think it is not necessarily buying from Chelsea. It is the players themselves, right? Because for me, I think if, for example, you said, I think there was speculation about Andre Santos and his usage in this Club World Cup, and if people saying he might be available because they got Lavia, they got Caicedo, they got Enzo. If Andre Santos or Chukwuemeka, for example, were being linked with Arsenal, I don't think the fan sentiment would actually be this way. So I do think it is more the quality of the player and the player perception, I should say, beyond more the Chelsea link, at least from my perspective, right? Because I do think Chelsea have got a good squad. They've got some good players that are useful. You can't tell me that if Arsenal were trying to buy Cole Palmer now, people would be onto the club for dealing with Chelsea. Do you get what I mean? It just wouldn't be the same. So, I think it does fundamentally come down to how the player is, rated in the fan base more than the Chelsea link. I think if you see the Chelsea fan reaction, none of them care that this guy's been sold to Arsenal. I'm not seeing a single fan be outraged or upset. Oh, why are we letting this guy go to Arsenal? No, they're happy to collect the peas and move on. Which I think says a lot. So yeah, I don't know how we ended up here. To be honest, because the question was about Ethan, right?
No, so you asked another question, right?
Can I ask another question?
You said something like why we do business with Chelsea like often.
I thought that was some of the question.
Yeah, maybe I'm spangled, man. Yeah. So okay, this is a good question. Chief Ike. He says, which player over 21 is most likely to raise their level in the upcoming season? Very interesting.
For Arsenal?
Yeah, for Arsenal.
Over 21, he said. Let's have a look at the squad list.
It's a difficult bracket, really, because guys like Ethan and Miles are still, 18, 19? So they don't really count, and they're already playing at a decent level anyway. So 21 plus. Can Calafiori fit into that? Because obviously he's been injured so he hasn't really had the consistency. I think he can be a serious addition. I'm a big fan of the quality. It's just obviously the injury. So yeah, that's my off the top of the head pick.
I feel that's an interesting one.
Rich Nelson's coming back, you know.
I think he'll be sold.
Who?
He has to report back though, doesn't he?
Yeah, but he's had surgery, so I don't even know if he's gonna be fit. To be honest,
biggest strong player over 21, Gabriel Jesus. He gonna bring back the joy, man. When he's back, Madueke out of the team. Gabby taking a left wing spot, bro.
Yeah, get real, man.
The brother's knees bleed up. What are you doing?
Get real, man. Which player over 21? It's a good question, likely to raise their level. Like, fuck it, man. This is my last dance, yeah? Martinelli season. We're back, yeah?
I'm not telling me that, bro. Then name a Martinelli.
You said all. God.
Yeah.
To be 10 around to say Martinelli is the god.
Martinelli hype, man. I don't even believe it myself, but I've got nothing left, man. I've got nothing left. Yeah, I've got nothing left. Okay. JK Muku, he says, if getting Rodrigo means we have to sell Martinelli, would you do it? Yes. What are the three most important cans? Second question. I assume it's all three of us is yes on that, yeah?
Yeah.
And then second question is, what are the three most important characteristics of a striker in your opinion? And does Gyökeres fit the mold? Very interesting.
Striking off both feet and a high volume of strikes per game. I've suffered through the Lacazette days. I've suffered through some of the Jesus days. Yeah, you need to be getting off shots at a high clip and be able to strike the ball really well. So I'll say that's 1. 2. I definitely.
Things, brother. Hold on.
Nah, I'm combining it in it. Like I'm cheating.
And I'm telling you, cannot. You need to pick one.
He said 3 in total. He said 3.
Yeah.
Didn't you?
So that's 2. So you got one more left.
So I said high shot volumes, ball striking off both feet.
There you go.
Intensity. Like you need the centre backs that you go up against, they need to be sweating buckets at the end of 90 minutes because they've just a stress. Like, that is high on the list for me. Again, I can reference Jesus and Lacazette going through 90 minutes without even attempting to put centre backs under pressure. So yeah, occupy.
This is what I mean you are different, man.
What?
This is what I mean you're different. Because you just described Victor Osimhen. That's what you described.
And you know I'm an Arsenal fan. So what's the big deal?
The both feet is a stretch anyway, but yeah, he shoots a lot. He's intense. Yeah, and he tries to shoot off both feet. That's what you described. That's like your archetype, right?
Yeah. Sue me. I like a striker that tries to score. I don't like all this tippy-tappy nonsense.
That's fine. I would like a striker that is intelligent, and instinctive. Intelligence, instinctiveness.
Anyway, Carol.
No. And if you apply this to this, I think they need to be intelligent, instinctive, and then have one USP. So that can be either your technique or your physicality. So that's the three things: intelligent, instinctive, a USP. Because you're dribbling, your technique, you're shooting, whatever it is, you need to have something that's outstanding. But intelligence for me is like the most important because I've seen stupid strikers. I've seen strikers that don't make the right pressing moves, the right movements to get someone away. So it's difficult to ascertain that with Gyökeres, to be honest, like his intelligence. At the moment, I'm giving them marks for relentlessness. So that's not necessarily intelligence, but it's a mental strength, I think. And intelligence is another. So mental strength. And then the instinctiveness is just like that nose for goal, like whatever. And I think you said it on the Patreon pod, Khalil, he's got a way of scoring. He has, his patterns of how to get to get to buckets. Kamala Anthony, no, mid-range, I'm getting to my spot. I'm shooting it. and it's going in. So he has that. So I give him that for sure. He's got that instinctiveness. Also, you know, he can shoot from anywhere, generate a shot. He's got that. And then the last bit I said is USP, and the USP I think is again this relentlessness. I don't really see many strikers being this intense and like hungry and like determined to score. So yeah, those are the three things for me. Yeah,
very interesting. Yeah, for me, I think movement is very important for me. I think your finishing ability, I think number two, and then probably the third is shot volume. For me, I think if you combine those three, I think if you combine those three, you're gonna be getting a top striker. Because, you know, whether they're physical, whether they're technical, I think the movement is probably linked with intelligence a little bit there to what Dan said. But I think, you know, one of like the players that we've seen who can score goals in all scenarios is because whether it's been able to run in behind, whether it's been able to find space in the box, whether it's been able to, you know, get on the defender's blind side, whether it's been able to get in front of the defender when a cross is coming in, attack the near post, attack the back post. They know where to be in the box or in the game to get their shots off. And if they can finish, you're gonna get a very good striker. Personally, I think there are some other traits that I would like to see, you know, link up, But those three for me are the top ones. Do I think Gyökeres has it? I think he's got the last two for sure in terms of finishing ability and shot volume. I don't know if we've seen enough to say he's got the movement personally.
Yeah,
sure. It's one of the things that, you know, I think remains to be seen. It's very difficult on the tapes to see if he has it or not because of the sort of the game scenarios that Gyökeres plays in for Sporting, but it is one of the things that I think is going to be very, very needed for him to succeed at Arsenal, playing against a lot of, you know, set defenses, as it were. So there's a couple more questions, and then we'll wrap up. And I need to wrap up before it hits 2 hours, to be honest. So what options is from Shaggy P8? What options do you guys have for a backup winger who can play both sides to a good level? Ideally, one who is happy being a backup and on reasonable wages.
Bro, just trying to sell us. Is he trying to sell us Madueke?
I was going to say, who would you want except Madueke? Sounds like the question.
I can't lie. This whole the project thing, I'm not with it, man. It's the same as when man were talking about, and I like Ugame in midfield. I was like, when they started moving for Norwood, I was like, yeah, that makes more sense. He's better than him right now. Like, I'm not with the project team too tough. We've got a couple young bucks coming through. Our team is still relatively young. Like, I know people like some of these names, Malik Fofana, Expanse. Like, are these guys that good? Like, the only guys that are really young, I'm really convinced of that they're that good are like Arda Güler, the Kenan Yildiz. I'm convinced these guys are really good. But these left field names, when are naming me from Serie A and playing for some Parma, and, like, bro, I'm not interested, man. I'm not interested in these guys. I can't lie.
I think it's always because the context provided is, it's going to have to be a cheap backup. But my thing is, my approach to squad building is buy quality and demote your starters. So if you buy a quality left winger, Martinelli becomes your backup. That's how I would do squad building instead of what you're suggesting. But again, because we're always told that we're limited in funds and all that, I think that's where people start to do the league transfer dive, and I'm a proponent of it. So yeah, if they were going to go grab,
you might need to come off Football Manager, man. Come off that. Just watch the top 5 leagues and see who the best are, and that's what we should be moving for, man.
Then bring us Rodrigo, and I won't hear no complaints. You won't hear no complaints from me.
What do you say from you?
Yeah.
I'm the opinion that matters here, man.
This is the thing. I personally didn't see the Saka backup as being an out and out signing in and of themselves, right? I saw this as get yourself a top level winger who is coming to start left wing, who can also play right wing, right?
And then, sorry, he's definitely.
Well, I don't know how cheap. I don't know how cheap he would have been.
He's got a year left in his contract. Or have I made that up? But yeah, he's definitely not signing an extension, so he is some level of available. I would definitely do that deal. Definitely.
I do look before Madueke any day of the week. I'll tell you that for free. I'd have taken Sane over Madueke, bro, and you lot know how I felt.
I won.
You don't know how I felt.
How is this a win for you? The man's tucking into Iskender Kebab and Lahmacun in Istanbul.
And Lamashun, man.
And Oshiman Mutu. And Oshiman Mutu, Baba.
Yeah.
But 12 for your net. I hear it.
This is my thing, right? I think the club have obviously gone to this whole like PL proven. He's played at a top club, stuff with Madueke. He's coming on relatively low wages, etc., etc. But yeah, I probably would have gone the way of if you're actually trying to sign a backup player, I probably would have gone the way of an experienced guy who, you know, you can probably hold bench here and there kind of thing, and it's not going to be a big deal. I think this kind of prime age type signing in Madueke, who you know isn't as good as your starting right winger. Maybe they can push the left winger. I'm just not convinced by personally. I think we should have gone hard for a top quality left winger and striker that I thought they were kind of doing when, you know, you see the names being linked. It seems that we've gone for a guy that we think is comfortable playing right wing and who can be in the rotation for left wing. I'm not convinced of his quality to come in and really usurp Martinelli on that left-hand side. I did a poll earlier this week about who people think is better out of Trossard and Madueke. Trossard won astoundingly, right? In that poll, and I don't think that bodes well personally for what we're going to get from Madueke, to be honest. So yeah, I think that signing is, you know, obviously this pod has been just permeated with Madueke chat, but yeah, that signing is a very confusing one to me. But yeah, there were other questions sort of mingled in with our mentions at the moment, so it's getting late. We've been recording for an hour and 50 minutes. So I'm just going to have to say, you man, with questions, we're not going to address them. You're going to have to hold that. And we'll be back with a Christian Norgard scouting piece, I think, later this week. Yeah. So, boy, what a day, man. What a day. I feel like I've been through the ringer. But yeah, anyways, you man, take it easy, yeah? Stay blessed. Thank you, Khalil. Thank you, German, for joining me. We'll catch you guys soon, man. Peace.
Yo, when I spit bars in a rave, man, I go